Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today with the BBA Education at Home. My name's Trevor Studd, and I'll be relaying any of your questions through to our educator. So please type any questions that you have, and we'll try to get through to all of them. Okay, over to you, Erik.
Thanks, Trevor. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here or watching the video as we post it later on social and YouTube and so on. So just amongst these unprecedented times, just to clarify, I'm in the house and this is my wife. So yeah, we obviously live together, so there's no social distancing, all that sort of stuff. Whatever I've got, she's got, and vice versa. So we're obviously limited to what we can do and models and so on that we have at the moment. So my wife has, so her name's Andrea, by the way. So I'm just going to show you what we've got, sort of the shape and so on and the style that she has. So as you can see, it's a short clipper cut underneath. And then this area here is left longer. So basically an undercut. So we're going to be taking this a lot shorter again. We're going to talk about, I'm going to be using an attachment for guards, which for those of you that know me and so on, I tend to do everything freehand. But this is a prime example of when I feel that guards are perfect for this job. But again, we'll come back to that as we do it. We're also going to be, so clipper all the way around, take that nice and short. We're going to leave the area that's hanging over still a little bit longer. We're going to use a razor and we're going to go in and break all that up around these areas through here. So again, you can see as we look there where the area that hangs over the undercut, we're just going to take this a bit shorter, break it up, give us the texture through that haircut through there. And then through the front area, it's very slightly asymmetric. She likes to have a little bit more length on this side. So what we tend to do is, you can see here that we've got very slightly coming down and then sort of back up and into this shorter area on the side areas through here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to damp the top down purely because I want to hold the hair up, and then we're going to use a clipper and clipper the back and sides. Now, just to, again, as I said, I was going to talk to you about this clippering and using attachments. So when I was trained in barbering and using clippers, my father trained me to do it freehand with scissor over comb and so on, clipper over comb. Once we can do that, then if I want to use attachments, they're there to use. But it's about learning the skill and understanding how it works, more to the point. So normally for a male haircut, what you would do, what you'd be looking to achieve is generally where the actual haircut is shorter at the bottom and longer at the top, through here to here. And this is called a taper, graduation, fade, whichever you want to call it. They all mean the same thing. The hair goes from shorter to longer. Now, think about what that does, because it means that this bit of hair here is the longest part of the clipper work and allows you length to then blend with the top. Now, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be, as you can see, we're going to be undercutting this area here, and then this top hair is going to fall over and sit onto that. Now, if we use traditional clippering techniques where we want to achieve shorter to longer, what it'll do is it'll keep this area here, which is this bit, longer, but we're looking at having definite sharp lines down here. Again, I'm not a lover of a square neckline because when it grows out, the line is still there. But when we taper, basically what that's doing is giving us graduation, but we have the sharp, bold feel, which makes it more masculine. Now, when we're working with women, we can still take the hair short. It's not about the length to an extent. What it's about is it being soft, being feminine, and so on. So you can see here, right, if I just comb this away, if I comb that bottom bit that sticks out, so as this has grown in, you can see what it does. And although we still have the shape of a line, what we don't have is a definite blunt, sharp line. And again, this is because we faded when we graduated, rather than putting our definite, bold drop-down line in there, which we would do for a man. So again, this is the fundamental difference, really, when we're working with male and female. Women, we want it to be softer, more feminine. Men, sharper, stronger, bolder. Okay? Right. So first thing we're going to do, and in actual fact, I'm going to break this haircut down into almost areas. So the first area is going to be the clipper work, and it's because it's all the same. The next thing we're going to then do is we're going to cut like a bit of a pompadour, the same sort of shape and style we would use, where when we start from the middle of the head, the haircut is going to get longer as it comes towards the front. That allows us to keep this length here. Once we come towards the back, as you can see at the moment, look at this area here. This hair is shorter, and it gives us balance in the haircut, because if we had to bring it all one way, what we would end up having is we would end up having sort of gaps in the head and so on. So it needs to be a little bit of shape over the crown, coming back down and so on into this area here. So this back part of the head is the simple uniform layer, following the contour of the head, and then we'll work on the outside shape, which is this bottom area. This front section, just a little bit longer at the front. So again, a straightforward haircut through there. And then we're just going to work through the perimeter of the top area. So as you can see, as this comes to there, we'll work through this all the way around the fringe area and so on. So again, it's a real simple, quick, easy haircut. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, let's just make sure. Okay. It's all a bit strange working at home. And this is something which I have, with my parents being sort of hairdressers and barbers, one of the things that they said to me from a very young age is don't get into the habit of home hair cutting as such, because you will never finish work. So it's a rule which all my friends and everybody comes to me, but they come to the salon, because then my work can finish. So this is a bit strange, and especially in sort of these times. So, okay, right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at sectioning the hair off. So now you can see if I hold this hair here, it's really pretty long. So we've got no issues there with where the existing undercut was. And as I say, all we're doing here is just following exactly the same line. Now, I'll talk to you just once I've sectioned off about the section that we take, because sometimes when I see this, I can see that people, maybe it should be a bit higher or a bit lower. So I'll talk to you about that in a second. So as we work around, just making sure. Okay, now this is really long, so you can see here roughly where our areas are and lines. So make sure you keep these lines nice and clean and even. And we're just going to work with bits. We're going to work in this area, and then we're going to carry on working in that next part around the head. Okay. Right. So I'm going to be working with the clippers and using a number 4 attachment. So we are making sure that the clippers guard right, the blades are close together, and we're just going to slowly work through basically the whole haircut. Now, because I said earlier about the masculine and feminine thing, so keeping it more feminine, I don't want a scalper, I don't want to go really short. So that's pretty much why I'm using a number 4, and that means that it's not going to feel as though, you know, because you can sometimes make a number 4 look like a number 1, and it's just too see-through. So again, I want to keep some sort of softness. Okay, so I'm just lifting the hair, freeing the hair, making sure it's all nice and free to work up the wave, and then just slowly working up and stopping as we get to this. So these teeth here, these teeth are going to go right in to there, to the cutting blade part. So once the cutting blade comes to here, that means that we've obviously got right up to that top area. Okay, and just keeping the clipper on a very slight angle. And the thing is, because we're working with hair which is both sectioned off, but also around the ear and so on, what I'm trying to do is make it, I'm just being careful, I'm being slow, because when I work slower, I tend to finish quicker because you're more thorough and more precise initially, rather than doing it too quick. And one of the other things that you'll find is that when you use attachment, they can miss little single hairs. So by going slowly and by also using the comb, what that will do is that will it lifts and fans the hair out, so it works better. Okay, so okay. And I'm just doing it very methodically. As you can see, I'm working in panels up the head, rather than different directions in all different areas. It basically allows me to see that the hair itself is clean, it's been cut, and so let me see that better. It's clean and it's been cut, and it also lets me see if there's any that I've missed. So just allowing me to go back over and clean those up. So we're just working through and getting rid of the excess at the moment. So you can see that. So then let's just we can do it more precisely now. And what I'm checking for is to see if I've missed any little bits of hair. Now, when we've done this, you can see that we have still got longer areas around here and around the ear and so on, like that, because obviously we've scooped in. So again, we're going to come back to this on the perimeter part once we've completed all of this. So you can see there that that's a very simple, straightforward clipper. And the good thing is that this area here, directly beneath the area that's going to hang over, isn't bulky. Because if we'd have cut it like that with a freehand clippering, then we would have created that bulk. Okay, so let's take that off. And let's work to the other side now. Section that through. And then the other line connects us back into the area here where we've already come to. So let's work. One more. Okay. So we're working through. Just as I say, nice and slow. So when I'm doing this, I'm paying attention to the fact that this part of the teeth goes above this line. So as we do it, we're going that way, but I'm being gentle and I'm deliberately not going sideways because it's going to start to take all of this out and so on. So just go straight into that hair at the top. Okay, again, let's just check. Okay. Right, so a tiny bit lower there. If anybody has any questions at all, again, sorry to be in front of the camera. Yes. Okay, that's that bit there. Okay. Right. So now that we've done this area and we've done all of the kind of the perimeter, sorry, the internal clippering part, we're going to work now on the perimeter of the clipper work. So this is our outline area. So this is where we're going to remove the guard and we're going to then start to work on this outline. So now this is the chrome style 2, but it's got a diamond cut blade on it. Now these blades are just, the reason I'm telling you this is because they're really sharp. So when I feel the edges, the points of the blade, you need to be careful because they are so sharp. And Andrea's skin's quite sensitive, so I don't want to be going too hard and digging with things like that. Okay. So as I was saying about masculine and feminine, one of the things here is, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but can you see just here, just that bit there? It seems a bit darker, and that's because it's a bit longer. So if we, and I'm still got full guard, so I'm fully extended up, and I'm starting to work with this clippering, and I'm just starting to take away the edge of the hair. And you can see now it's starting to give that a little bit more graduation, and it's just starting to make it, rather than be square like this, it starts to curve it. And that's basically what we're looking at doing with the bottom edge, really. So I'm just going to work the clipper on the edge. Right, so you can see now here that what I am trying to achieve here is I don't want to just do a straight line around the ear either way, because it will end up meaning that it's too hard. So I'm looking to do it in such a way that it gives it a softer, more graduated, tapered effect. So hence the reason that I'm working. Can you hold your ear for me, please? Okay, so right now, look here. So if I do this, can you see that excess hair? So what we can do is we can either do that, but when you work up the way, you are over-directing this bottom hair away. So what I tend to like to do is just to do this, right? And just softly graduate it. And you can then start to see that we are making it shorter around there without leaving it and putting a definite blunt line into the hair. But the one bit, okay, is just in this area here, where I'm just going to flick the clipper a little bit. So now just take that fraction shorter, and then just a little tiny bit there. And what that's doing is that's just taking a little bit of graduation. So now when we come to work around here, okay? So look at the way that the neckline grows. We've got a different growth pattern. So this part of the neckline grows around along with the rest of the hairline. So a very normal hairline. And then the side areas from here up the way, they come around like that. So that's where we're going to start to flick against the growth of the hair. Okay, so I'm just going to come this side to here. Right, so I think you can see that. So you can now start to see that we are creating a really soft, natural feel into the kind of the nape and this corner ear area, just through there. So again, if you can hold your ear for me. Okay, so not sure if you can see, but we've got a little bit of a darker area there, and that's just where, when we've worked with a clipper in the guard, we've scooped and we have over-directed that hair back. So that means it's going to be a little bit longer. So, okay, if you like to over it. Okay, so that gives us a really nice kind of soft, feminine feel around that hairline. You can see this area here. Now, I'm going to turn around so you can see the hair stick out. I think you can see this. You see this here? So slightly forward. Okay, so I'm going to go against the growth again. And what I want to do is I want this to be shorter from the bottom. So I'm clippering that bottom area. But one of the things to notice that what I am not doing is I am not taking away this part of the growth of the hair. Okay? Because look at the neckline. There's your M shape. Okay? This and here is part of the neckline. It's almost like, can you see when we've got the bit at the side that comes forward and then comes round? Doing that straight, you wouldn't know what was wrong. You just would know that it didn't look right. And again, when we're going in and we're starting to do square necklines, anything beneath the line is going to blow back, and you're going to see it, but the line is still going to be there. And as I say, it grows in far, far better. So just by keeping the clipper, and again, you can see we're on full guard still. Okay, so, and what I mean by full guard is there's no guard and there's full guard. So the blade is right back. Okay, so we're just going to clean around those areas. Okay, and then again, that bottom area just of the neckline, just graduate it very slightly, because what we're going to find is that we're going to find that we've got a bit of bulk on that base area because we've used the number 4. So we want to graduate that a little bit more. Okay, so as we then work around these side areas, okay, so again, so let me show you this. So still full guard, and then notice the way that I turn the clipper. And then all I'm doing is I'm doing a flick, and that flick is exactly the same that we do on the base, on the base of the neckline as we work around. And it gives us that nice, soft feel. Now, even although, as I say, I'm taking it shorter, and a lot of the time I'll use like a 0.5 fade and just fade it in, so you can still see that the length is there, but sorry, the shape is there, but there's not a lot of length into that part. So just again, nice and graduated. So when we look at the haircut from the side, what you're seeing. That way. So when we look at it from the side, you can see that it goes from a bit longer and then it tapers down. So we've got no bulk here, and we've got no bulk all the way around these edges of the haircut. And again, it's just left that little bit softer for the hair. Okay, so same thing again here. Right, if you can hold your way down again from this one. So, and you can see here now this excess length, and it really is only just in at the edge of the ear. So all I'm doing is I'm doing this, I'm elevating the hair out, and I'm just taking that little bit on the edge shorter. So really quite simple. Okay, and then same thing again. Now we've got a little bit of bulk, so I'm just going to bring it back slightly. Okay, and then same thing again, just that little flick, just to keep it nice and soft around that perimeter. You hold your ear again one more time. Perfect. And you can see just a little couple of little hairs. I'm just going to use the small corners here for that, because that is quite detailed. So change of comb, much more detailed. There. As I'm doing it as it's moving, still keeping it that little bit softer. Okay. Right. So still nice and soft around the edges. Yeah. So you can see now that that's us basically undercut everything. So all the way through. So because it's dry up the way, you need to make sure that you wet this hair thoroughly to come down. And this is where the haircut becomes quite effective. It looks pretty funky and so on, but it's dead simple to do. So now we're looking at the outside of the haircut, okay? So what I mean by that is you've got two shapes to a head. One is the inside shape, which is your layers and your length and everything on the inside, and then your perimeter, fringe or bangs, and then side length and so on. So truly, if somebody has one length hair, they've got no inside shape. But when somebody's really short and textured and messy, it's a real uniform kind of messy texture shape of the hair. So we're combing it into where the hair's naturally going to fall. Here, and okay, so look what we have now. I think you can see that. Okay, right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a razor and I'm going to shorten this length here. Now, when you're deciding what tool to use, you need to think about what it is that you want to achieve. So because here, we don't want any sort of lines, we want everything to be soft. Yeah, I'm just going to pick it up bit by bit by bit and softly razor it through. And it's going to do two things. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to shorten the length of the hair, okay? But it's also going to graduate the edges in. So let me show you. So if you look at this bit here, okay, so if I hold that, and I'm taking quite a big bit, okay? So when I'm doing that, you can see here, now what it's actually done is it's shortened the length, but it hasn't made it a blunt line. So it's given us that softness and texture. So I'm going to go over and do the same thing all the way around, and then I'm going to go back over and I'm going to graduate it, because I find that if I do the same thing all the way, because it's muscle memory, it's about picking a bit of hair, doing that, picking a bit, doing that, and doing it all the way around. It's much more likely to be even. Whereas what I could do is I could pick the razor and I could do a little bit, and then I could get the scissors and I can do something else on that part, and then get the razor and do that. It's just too fragmented. Do everything bit by bit by bit, okay? So just picking up little bits of hair. Do not complicate this. It doesn't have to be difficult. So you can see, and the reason it doesn't have to be difficult is because I think sometimes people lose sight of what they're trying to achieve. So what I'm trying to achieve here is a messy, textured, uneven feel. So I'm not going to use methods that's going to give me an even kind of feel to the haircut. So yeah, as I say, I watch people really make simple things very difficult. And the reason is because they're using a technique which is designed maybe for precision work or something like that. Okay, now you'll see what I mean when I go round again. So at the moment, I'm creating the outside shape. Okay, but once I start to come to here, right, I'm going to start to do this very slightly differently, because I'm now going to, instead of me taking longer strokes with the razor, and what that's going to do is that's going to mean that it gives me a bit of graduation, I'm going to take shorter strokes, and that's going to give me a bit more of a blunt line. So if you watch this, okay, look at the hair there. You can see it's far more even than, for instance, this bit, which has got far more graduation in it. Okay, and it just means that if you watch, I can keep a little bit of thickness in certain areas by using the razor in a different way. So short, sharp strokes gives me a little bit more thickness and weight. Now, right back to the beginning. Now what I'm going to do is, because if I do this, can you see there? See how this looks quite rounded here? So what I want it to do is I want the shape to be higher. So I want fullness there, and then I want it to taper down a bit more. So more that way, because what it does, and this is the whole thing about shape and contour, okay, is that look at the shape that we've got now. Just trying to get that light bit away from it. Right, look at the shape now. So it's balanced here, and then it goes down at an angle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. So what that does is that helps to follow the jawline. And again, we're talking guys, and it works for women as well, but it helps to follow the jawline, and it helps to slim people down. If something is cut either too short here, it means that this is fuller. It just looks rounder because this becomes the widest part, not here. And that's why it's about shape, okay? So as I was saying, we've now done the outside edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to use a different stroke. I'm going to use a longer stroke. And I'm not removing all of the hair. So what this is doing is this is giving me that taper and graduation on just on the very bottom edge of the haircut. And again, I'll go over and do this once it's dry, because you can start to see the hair better once it's dry, and the proper amount of thickness and the proper amount of bulk. So, but as I say, this is quite a simple, easy, straightforward, but really quite effective haircut. Now, one of the things, look at this here. So we can see here that you can see through the hair more, which tells me it's a bit thinner. But because we've used a sharper stroke here, it gives us a bit more bulk and a bit more weight. And that's because there's nothing underneath here. Yeah, and it just keeps that little bit of thickness. Now, what we will do is once it's dry, and I've gone over and straightened it very slightly, is that I'll just take a very soft edge off, because I want a slight taper and graduation, but I still want a little bit more thickness here than I do on the rest of it. And it's because there's hair underneath the rest of it. So that can be thinner. Okay, so that's us done the outside shape. So we've done the bottom. And again, if you break this haircut up into, like, let's just do one bit, let's just do the clipper work. You can do that. It's quite simple, quite straightforward. Let's then take this next bit, let's go all the way around with the razor, just cut the hair off to the length we want. Again, pretty straightforward. Again, with the edge, just softening, not taking length away, just bolt, gives us that. Now what we're going to do is the last bit, which is the top, and then the outside part of the fringe. So switching over tools. So we are going to come round now to let you see the side. Okay. Again, I don't know if anybody has any questions at all. So, right. So you can see here now. Andrea's hair is quite long, so we're going to take a little bit off. We're going to take probably about 3/4 of an inch or so. But notice my fingers. So notice my fingers are coming down the way here, and that, can you see that bit of hair at the front falling? That's falling because we're not taking any length off that front. If I had to change the angle of my fingers and have it like that, you can see that we would do. So again, and all that will do is cut the front shorter. So let's lift it up, angle back, and then straight forward, club cutting. Now, the reason I'm club cutting is because Andrea's hair is quite fine as a type of hair. She's got medium to fine hair, and the actual circumference and so on, it's not very kind of white really. So what I want to do here is have a little bit of layering in the haircut, but I also want to make sure that we have a bit more thickness on the ends, just to give us that little bit more coverage as such. Okay, so taking a middle section, angled higher at the front, graduating down, and created. Once we get to here, we then follow a uniform layer around. And obviously, as I do that, I then run out of hair because this is clippers. So here, and you can see, look at the thinness there compared to here. That's my graduation and club cutting from the top. There's the graduation as we come to the edge. So that will graduate in. Okay, so I'm left-handed. So I stand here, and well, you can work many different ways. And here's something that I find is quite important, and that is that just because I do something a particular way doesn't mean it's the only way. I'm showing you my way. I'm giving you understanding. I'm giving you reasons behind why I do things a certain way. But it doesn't mean it's the only way. And it's about the result. So if I say to you, there's a picture, cut my hair to give me that result, and you achieve it, then who's to say that your method or my method is right and wrong? So it's about achievement, and it's about creating that shape that you want to achieve, rather than focusing too much on the method and why it isn't working, because there's lots of different ways to do different things. So there's my central guide. So I'm going to lift this up, just take the very edges off. And then as we work back in the head, you will now start to see where, because remember, we didn't take anything off the front. So that's my first section. So as we start to come back, you will then see the hair getting a little bit more off it, purely because we're working with shorter hair as we come towards this crown. Okay, so just the very edge of that part there. Now, again, look at this. Can you see that that bit of hair there is the bit that gives me the undercut? So I'm only really working with this, and we've got 2 or 3 sections or panels that we work through in the top. So again, it is really quite a simple, straightforward haircut that we're working through. So look at the contour of my fingers. They're following a uniform layer. So as we work through that way, and then as we come down, now you will see that we get a little corner. So there's the top coming this way, and there's the bottom coming up from there. And this tiny area there, we're just going to trim the very edges. Can you see the corner again? Now, what you don't want to do is sharpen that too much, because that is part of your razoring that you went round and done the perimeter on. Okay, so I've taken my first section, worked all the way round, and now I'm going to follow the horseshoe and start to work back towards the crown, back towards the front, and just taking off the little bit of hair that's required, following my guideline. Okay, right, so last part, the fringe, or the bangs. Right. So do you remember what I said about Andrea's hair being a bit finer? So because of that, and again, you can see that we can see through it. So we're going to be looking at taking a little bit of length off, but I want to point cut it. So I don't want a blunt line, but I don't want the razor to thin the ends either. So you can see as we start from here, we're going to work with this line. So that line there that comes round, and then you can see where we are now going to work, as that is now part of the fringe. So they connect all the way around, unless it's meant to be disconnected. So just starting the point cutting. And I always like to do this, right? I like to comb the hair almost in the place that it's going to be worn, because you can see where the length is going to sit. You can see both. You can, so if you're doing, I watch a lot of people doing an asymmetric fringe and they over-direct it the other way and do it, which is fine. It shows the example that there is another method. But it also means that that hair isn't lying in the place that it's going to be worn. So you don't really see it properly, I don't think. So I like to do it where I can see the hair being where it's going to be. Okay, so that is it. So a real nice, easy, simple haircut. And so all I'm going to do now, we're going to dry it off, and we're going to straighten the very front edge just to see the thickness. Yeah, pretty much we are done. Now this, as I say, normally takes about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to do. Normally, because I rush it, and so no, normally because I'm not talking, I'm not doing anything, I literally straightforward, take that up, little tiny bit of layering, and do the outline. It's a dead simple, but once you see it finished, really quite effective haircut. Okay, so let's dry you off. Okay, so literally a couple of minutes it just takes to go through, dry the hair off and leave it quite natural. So this is normally what Andrea does through the day, normally, you know, everyday wear. So remember I was saying about it being dry? So now you can actually see the texture, but you can also see any areas that are still a bit thick. So we've got a bit of darkness here. So I'm just going to pick up that one bit and soften it down. Just tease little tiny bits. So you can see this is a bit thicker. So I've done less graduation on this side. So a little bit longer strokes. Breaking that bottom, that line up a little bit. Okay. Right. I'm just looking at the thickness because I can see it dry. I can see now just the fact that I want to take a fraction more off. Right. Now, as it goes, this is the bit that, the thing that really you need to be aware of. Unless it is deliberate, you want softness in the fringe. Now, you can see that you can see through a little bit of this area of the fringe, but you can see how it's a bit thicker and so on here. So you want to make sure that it's not a blunt, heavy line, unless it's deliberate, right? So here, we're just going to take away some of that the way it's been dried, which is natural, and then just start to do this, straighten it through a little bit. Now, the straighteners are not warm, sorry, they're not hot, they're just, right. And then I'm going to break up that line again. But this is when you can go in and you can use more thinning scissors. So here, because I'm going to be a little bit more precise, I can break a little bit up there. And again, this is exactly how you would use the thinners, just to make somebody's hair not quite so blunt, because you can see the hair in the right shape. You can see where it's sitting. And what it's going to do. Okay, to an extent, I'm kind of just fiddling and footering about now. So that is the one thing that I always check, is to make sure it's a bit softer onto that hairline. Now, guys are going to be having longer haircuts now because they've grown and they had to. So the whole layering thing, we kind of need to get onto using more scissors, understanding how that works and so on. So I know over this next however long, the BBA has got quite a few different sort of guest artists or people that are going to be educating for them. So just keep your eye on the BBA social medias, and we've got live demonstrations every 1 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, just there you go. Trevor?